Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 5, activating starseeds, walk-ins, and the new human of the golden age. I'm your host, Waxela Sananda, and today it's my pleasure to present Margarita Alcantara. Welcome, Margarita.
Hi there, Waxela. Thank you so much. I love being here once again.
Yeah, happy to have you back. And the conversations I have with you are always transformational and powerful. So I'm really looking forward to digging in with you today. But first, I'd like to invite everyone to join us in a short alignment process so we can really get focused and get on the same page and ready for whatever's going to be presented today. So let's begin by close your eyes if you can, if you're not driving and if you're in a place where it's safe. And just deepen the breath, tuning your breath deeply into the belly, expanding the belly. And as you're breathing and getting present in the body, bring your awareness into your heart center, making contact with the light in your heart. And feel that heart light expanding, glowing and growing out around your chest, filling your entire body with light. And now extend that heart light up far above your head into central sun, making contact with the divine heart light of central sun. And bring that energy down into the crown of your head, spreading down into every energy center, all the way to the base of the spine. And then continue that energy line down all the way into the core center of the earth, finding the heart of Mother Gaia and making contact with that heart light of the Mother Earth. And then bringing that light up through the layers of the earth into the base of the spine and up the spine into every energy center. And then allow the energies from above, below, and within to join in a triangular portal, a holy trinity of light within your chest. And then expand that heart light out, holding space for you as you bring your full focus and awareness, your consciousness to this present moment in your body, opening to receive whatever's for your highest good today. And then take one more deep breath and come on back. Thank you for doing that with me. And I'm going to share a little bit about what Margarita has been up to. Margarita Alcantara is a Shamanista Medicine Woman, activator for the new code of power, and a keeper of the blue flame. She helps spiritually conscious entrepreneurs activate the next level of their power so they can make their deep impact in the world. She is an embodiment of Mother Gaia, conduit between the Star Nation and Mother Gaia, and a chakra expert. Margarita is a licensed acupuncturist and Reiki master teacher, as well as a best-selling author of her book, Chakra Healing. So it's so wonderful to have you here, and I'm so excited to jump in. So as we open up this conversation, Margarita, I'd love, and I've had you before. Otherwise, I'd have you do your origin story, but you've shared that, so people can go back and watch that from before. But I really want to start with addressing the trauma that that humanity experiences here on planet Earth. You know, starseeds and walk-ins, we're such sensitive people, and yet there's this two-sided thing where we're experiencing trauma and just the difficulty of this density, and then the gift of being here for this ascension and this exciting time. How do we remedy that? And, you know, do you have any, first of all, your thoughts about it, and then tips and advice on how we can sort of balance this world that we live in?
Yeah, this is such a powerful topic, you know, and I know that we touched upon it before, but it's just really such a powerful time. I mean, we're literally in this prophesied planetary awakening. So a lot of starseeds have really incarnated on purpose so that we could experience this time right now. And what a lot of, which you already alluded to, what a lot of starseeds have kind of forgotten is that they chose to be here. And so there's a lot of, I won't say like across the board, but a lot of starseeds are still in the whole waking up phase, and maybe they're just beyond waking up a little bit into their awareness as a starseed, and they're kind of feeling the impact of the density. And as you said, because we're such sensitive beings, like we pick up everything and we feel the energy around us, like literally as we're walking, just making errands and things. And so when we're so sensitive like that, we mistaken that for there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with where I'm at. There's something wrong with this planet. I don't like being here, and there's this visceral remembering of how amazing and smooth and harmonious everything was, in our star systems, because everything was a lot in a higher frequency, in a higher density. So when we come here and we're still in this collective amnesia around our power, it's still this awareness of, oh my gosh, everything feels so hard. Everything feels so intense. I don't want to be here. And so that's something I've heard from a lot of starseeds, unfortunately, of, I want to go back. I want to go back home. I want to go back to my star planet. Like, I don't want to be here, right? But the thing we get to remember is that we chose to be here. We chose to incarnate on this planet on purpose, with excitement and with joy and with anticipation, because we're like, oh my God, I have these very unique qualities and abilities that I can contribute to this massive awakening and shift in the universe, because that's what we're really having right now. It's not just us on this planet and then that's it. I mean, as starseeds, we're like this galactic community, and a lot of starseeds have forgotten that because they're still in this awakening phase. And so I think one of the biggest things I want to kind of convey is, first of all, remember that you are powerful. Remember that you chose to be here on this planet at this time. It was very precise, your incarnation on this planet, because you chose this, right? And then as you start to remember that, allow your being, allow your DNA matrix to kind of open up into this awareness of, wow, I've got what it takes. I've got what it takes to be this prolific planetary catalyst for humanity, because we all came here so that we could elevate the consciousness of humanity. And first, what we need to remember is our own shift, and remember who we really are, and really embrace that and accept that. So the acceptance piece is huge. And then after the acceptance and embracing of who we are has been done, then we get into empowerment. And so that's really where we're at. I mean, Gaia's in that area right now. She's ascending, she's elevating her frequency, because we're also, so many light workers, starseeds, are doing that internally. And those are some of us who have been here for quite some time. And I know I have a feeling, I didn't ask you, Waxela, but I have a feeling you're similar like me, like we've been here maybe for a couple billion years, right? And so, that's something where we have that remembrance and we have that knowing, and we're coming forward with that wisdom. And that's what we get to experience now, is beyond, get beyond the victimhood, into the awareness, into the embracing, then into the empowerment, into, oh, we carry this wisdom. And so then we get to move forward with that wisdom.
Yes, yes. And, likewise, I hear from so many people, like, it's just so dense and so difficult. And how do I embrace it when, all these things are going on? And yet I think collectively, that's the mission right now, is to get to that place. And it doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean we're not going to experience trauma and have to release it, and even collectively releasing that trauma. Do you feel like the star seeds and the higher consciousness beings that are embodying now are really here to assist in the release of collective trauma, like the
Yeah,
empaths, and then also,
huge, because it's the collective trauma, which we have a lot of, okay? And we have our own trauma, right? And that's where we get beyond the victimhood, right? And we do that inner work, we do the inner love, and really embodying our love frequency for ourselves first, right? Because not only are we having our own personal human incarnation, experiences from either this lifetime, previous lifetimes, but also a lot of us came from, yes, harmonious, beautiful, high frequency star systems, but we also carry frequencies and memories of like cosmic wars. Some of us, like myself, who have memories on Gaia when she was still Terra, and all the cosmic wars that were happening here. So I mean, there was a lot of trauma on so many different planes. And the very curious, important piece on this is that, we are in this planetary war on consciousness right now. And so that is what's being targeted, is our trauma, our unhealed trauma in particular. So anywhere where you have unhealed trauma from your own personal human past, or cosmically, galactically, or what you remember from being on planet Earth, or in the cosmic wars, we're remembering things on a visceral level. Some of it we're not completely aware of yet, and so that becomes the uncovering, the healing aspect. And then, of course, we've got this collective trauma that we've been harnessing for eons, from like the old paradigm, from so much how would I say, kind of like that dark matrix, that has been implemented on planet Earth, and that we've believed, we've been indoctrinated into. And so now we're, part of our collective clearing and healing and release becomes acknowledging all these things we've learned as truths. I know I had to do that, and it was an ugly, clearing for myself. And, it's not when you have this pretty cry, it's like ugly cry kind of experiences, right? And so we are healing all of that personally and collectively, and so much that we've believed to be true, from like how we've believed our history to be true, what we've experienced as money to be true, what we've learned in terms of societies and race and sexuality and gender and all this stuff that creates specific intentional division, and I see this also happening with starseeds too. A lot of starseeds getting caught up in the whole, well, I'm so-and-so, I'm from this planet, and so I'm so awesome, and we are awesome, but at the same time, that's part of also the division, the whole like, well, I'm this and I'm better and you're not, and all the stuff that I'm seeing on social media. And that's not the point of being a starseed. So it's really about really opening up into, okay, where are we holding all these aspects and lies of division and delusion and fear that we are not capable and not able, I mean, we get to collectively clear that.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like the divisive or the division trap. I feel like I love that you spoke into that, because no matter what we identify as, we must get to that point of all are equal. We all come from the same source. And then that desire to work for the collective, not just the self, to better the betterment of all, versus is this good for the whole or is this just good for me? And it's true with the labeling, I'm an Arcturian or I'm a Syrian or a Pleiadian or whatever it is, or I'm a walk-in or a new human, an indigo. There's so crystal child, so many labels. And, at some level, we can, any individual could tap into all of those, and more, of course. But yet, if we get stuck, it's like something happens where if we're like over focused on one, right, then we get this feeling of, could turn into a feeling of superiority or egotistical. And I do see that sometimes happening. And I think that's another divisive trap that we've got to watch out for. That's embedded in the frequency or the matrix of like the dark matrix, kind of like you mentioned. There are traps, right? I mean, have you witnessed that? Various traps that even the like higher consciousness people can fall into.
Absolutely. And I know that you and I touched upon this briefly too, is just this, there is that dark programming, that dark matrix, and they are intentionally targeting starseeds and intentionally targeting light workers. And the reason why, and I'm not, here as like be in fear, because I mean, it's the opposite of that. It's like we need to be aware of what the programming is. Because a lot of starseeds get caught up in like an either or thing. Like there's no like, oh, maybe there's like some nebula over here. It's like they're either in the polarized thing as well, right? Where either everything's good, all the beings of the galaxy are good, or they're all bad, they're all going to come here and abduct us, right? Like, I mean, it's either or, right? And so there's some dark programming in that too. And starseeds are targeted because we are so powerful, because we literally carry frequencies and genetics from other dimensions and other portals, planes, and universes. And we are then embodied in this human form that has the ability to shift in between those levels and those portals and those dimensions. And that is super powerful, because not everyone has that, and I mean, because yes, we all have galactic DNA, but not everyone is a starseed, in my opinion, because starseeds literally have a mission to up level and raise the consciousness of humanity and bring the consciousness of the stars to planet Earth. And so we have a very special mission. So can you imagine if you were to jam that frequency and then import in like a dark programming into our genetics when we incarnate, that we need to be afraid of our power, that we need to be afraid of starseeds, that they're all evil, right? That, humanity's evil or something is evil, right? And we're in fear of that. And then in reaction to that, because when we are in reaction to our fears and things that are not true, then we're out of our power. Then we're not functioning from our place of power, right? And so that is part of the intentional programming, is like, let's get these starseeds to fear their power. Let's get these starseeds to fear, this galactic stuff, this alien stuff, this extraterrestrial stuff, and just have them hate that and to fear that deeply, and to then be in division around all this stuff, and to be in fear of, I can't do this. And that's a lot of the deprogramming I'm noticing is, I can't do it. It's too big. I can't handle it. I can't do it. Right. And the truth is, that's a lie. It's a full on 100% lie that you are incapable, because literally you were built for this genetically. Without getting into the division of things, because of our genetics, we actually have this genetic predisposition to implementing this mission, I'll just say. So, things that you think you're not capable of, it's simply because you weren't aware of it yet on a genetic level. And so we get to see the lie for what it is. And I know back in the day when I first learned all this programming that was put on me to believe how, I'm not capable, no one's going to listen to me, who do I think I am? That means I'm being full of myself and all of this stuff. And when I realized that that was all lies, I was honestly very angry. I was pissed off, because I'm like, wow, that really worked on me. That really, like, I believed it. I lived the lie. And, there was a part of me that was like, wow, I wasted so much time, right? But I mean, it's all perfect, right? I mean, it's all perfect. So if you're in that space right now where you're kind of like having this push pull, this ebb and flow, and like, wow, I feel amazing. Oh my God, who do I think I am? And wow, I'm in Starseed, and like, oh, this is all evil, like, it's normal to feel that, and recognize that anywhere where you are believing fear is a lie, and you get to bust through that. And so this is what, I'm hoping you're going to get from our conversation today, is it's your time to bust through that block, that fear. And even if, because I feel like this is going to come up, so I'm feeling this is going to come up, like a lot of starseeds may be afraid to remember the trauma that they left behind. Maybe some of them came here on purpose because there were all these cosmic wars, and they came here because they wanted to create a better life for the universe. That's you. Okay. So embrace that, embrace why you came here, even if it was because there was trauma, right? I know myself, I left some children behind, right? Because I promised them, I said, I promise you, I'm going to make this happen. Right. So even though I was a Syrian high priestess, and even though I was also blue avian and not was, right, I am, right. I came here with a specific mission, and I left some people behind that were very dear to me for this purpose. And even if you have something similar, be okay and embrace the love that made you incarnate on this planet, because it was love that made you come here. Okay. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that's so well said. And thank you for sharing all of that. Gosh, there's some things to unpack in there. Like, the as you're speaking, one of the things that I was really seeing is, first of all, like the golden egg with the crack in it. And I as well had many experiences of like, oh my gosh, that's what's really going on. And it is like this consciousness kind of ripping open in some ways when people start to wake up to the truth of what's happening in this reality. And so for people to be patient with themselves and like let yourself have time to digest that. It's not something you have to accept all at once, but just to keep going. And then the other thing is, as you were speaking about the star seeds bringing down the codes and the light from their various star seed planets and places, that the earth, those who are the earth beings who have been here for millennia, who've been working and holding the light of the earth, are receiving it, just like in that opening alignment process from above, below, and within. And then it's all of us embracing the new reality, or the higher dimensional experience, the new earth, and coming together as a whole. And again, not like star seeds are better than earth beings or vice versa. It's we're all from the same source. We're all on this mission together. How can we create and act together to experience? And you said this on our previous call, the code of elevation, and embrace the code of elevation, which I feel like is really essentially the ascension process.
Yes. The code of elevation, it is so important to really, the word that came up was arise, right? Like, I mean, star seeds are really coming into this awareness of we are rising up, right? Like we're rising up, and, not only because we're becoming aware of ourselves more, and our abilities on a personal level, but it is because it's required right now. Like it's literally required. If you haven't seen, I don't know who hasn't, right? Like all of this energy, all this stuff that's playing out on the global stage. And I see a lot of star seeds kind of getting caught up in all the minutia around that, and like, oh my God, this is happening. And then, like that's part of the dark programming. Get you afraid of your body, other people, yourself, who you are, your intuition, God, like, I mean, all this stuff, right? I mean, that's the plan. That's the plan. And so the code of elevation is so important to start embodying, to awaken within yourself so that you start to rise up and get beyond, really transcend this dark programming of you need to be afraid of this now. Oh yeah, now this thing popped up, now be afraid of that, right? Like, I mean, all of that is a distraction. It's not even real. Like so much of that is even fabricated, right? And I'm not even going to go into that. But the point is that when you're a starseed and you're really truly connected to yourself, to your mission, to your light, to what you're here to create in the world, like you see beyond all that, and you start to be like, okay, it's game time, right? Like, I mean, last year and the year before, training wheels. That was time for us to like be having our training wheels. We're riding our little tricycle and whatever. Now it's like training wheels are off. It's time to rise up. It's time to awaken into the fullness of who you are, transcend beyond all these lies that we're being fed of you're incapable, you can't handle this, you can't do this, right? And really embody that power. transcend all that trauma, not to say bypass it, okay? Address it, heal it, love it up, clear it, and then transcend it. And then be in the fullness of your potential as a really empowered, being in human form who happens to be a starseed, because you carry that power. And that is specifically why that programming is targeting you.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I love the way you shared that. There are so many rabbit holes to follow and fall down. And, personally, I've had to really extract myself from, even alternative media. I haven't watched news for 20 some years, but there's just, it's like people send things and then I watch it, it's really just, I notice when I do that, my frequency will drop. And there are people who that's their thing, maybe they're information sharers and all of that. But I think for sensitives, empaths, starseeds, a lot of the walk-ins, it's too much. It can, can really kind of grab you and pull you back and have you out of your power. And and I know you're all about empowerment, the new code of power, having people step into their power. And I think for a lot of starseeds too, it's being given permission, right? Sometimes we just need permission to say, yes, I am here for this. And yes, I am powerful, right? I mean, do you notice that? Like, do you have words of empowerment that you can just feed all of the starseeds, walk-ins, and new humans right now?
Oh my God. So juicy, Waxela. You're always getting to the juicy, juicy parts. And yeah, like, I mean, so many of us are so sensitive. And so we pick up things, and in our human, we've learned to not speak until spoken to, especially if you're a woman, right? And incarnated as a woman this time around. And so it's just, we learn to not rock the boat, to not speak our truth, especially if it's dangerous, which can be linked to trauma, right? Because there's so many human galactic incarnations we've had where we've spoken up because we're this, we've got all these wonderful abilities, and then something happened that hurt our family or hurt ourselves. And then we're like, okay, we're not doing that again. So, recognize this, right? Recognize what comes up for you, what gets triggered within you around all of this, right? If you're getting triggered, that's where you get to start. That's where you are unhealed. And that's also where you can get poked by the negative forces. So that's where you get to start. And in terms of all this aspect of permission, don't rock the boat. This is your time to rock the boat. Waxela and I give you full on permission if that's what you need. I mean, it comes from yourself, right? But if that's what you need, we both, because I just touched base with Waxela's energy and she's like, yeah, let's do that, right? We give you permission to shine. We give you permission to be this prolific, amazing catalyst, starseed, to raise the consciousness and vibration, to self-actualize your potential, and to raise that frequency within yourself, within others. Permission granted, okay? Now it's up to you to really embrace that in yourself and to say, this is my time. This is my time. And we get to all shine together. Okay, so permission granted.
Yeah. And I think about growing up in rural Iowa, and I was having contact experiences from very young age. And naturally I felt different because I knew that the people around me weren't having those experiences, and that I was seeing things differently, and that I was understanding things differently. And I learned not to talk about it. I even had the program, don't tell the adults, they won't understand. And if I talked about it with other kids at school, they're like, what? Like nobody was understanding it or hearing it. And I think that for me was a huge piece to overcome that, the idea in the program, don't talk about it, don't share about it, don't say anything, try and fit in, try and, like just go incognito. And for that time in my life, that was appropriate. But now that time is over.
Absolutely. I agree with Shayla, and I love you sharing that aspect of, how you grew up too. Me, I was not in a rural place. I was more in the suburbs. So, no ships could kind of come down and be like, hey, we're here, So I wasn't really having that experience. But I definitely did have the, like all my gifts were like waking up and I was like seeing things and I was, feeling things. And I received a lot of information from others around me saying, you're too sensitive, chill out, relax, stop being so weird, And so I said, gee, like I don't want to be so weird, like, so I literally like, shut down my heart center, my third eye. And I'm like, I'm done with this crap, like I just want to fit in. I don't like sticking out. But just like the way I incarnated on purpose in terms of physically, like I just naturally did. Right. And so that was kind of like a fail. But when I shut down my heart, I mean, I just welcomed all kind of, literally it created a shamanic initiation for me because that's when you shut down your power, you make yourself vulnerable to the dark forces. And that's what I did on purpose because I thought it would help me and it didn't. But the good thing about that was, although for a couple of years I was in that mire and I was a buffet for the darkness, what I learned was how they work. And what I learned was how they work you. And what I learned was also how to dismantle them. And so once I came out of that, which was basically meditation, because, literally my heart was shut down. My third eye was so shut down. I was literally in psych wards and on psych meds and all this stuff. Right. And then I literally couldn't afford my psych meds one day. And then I just started meditating and then bam, like the dark forces were like, crap, we lost her, because that after that, I was in light and I was like full on and I'm like never going back. And now I also have all this knowledge about how they work. Right. So that's why I'm so good at what I do with my own personal work that I'm doing here on the planet. But, and also why I connected with that new code of power, because whatever you have the most trouble with right now, that you are struggling with the most right now, for me, it was my personal power. That is where your power lies. So instead of being afraid of whatever you're afraid of, right? Start getting curious about, why am I afraid of that? Right? Why am I afraid of that? And then just start, having internal inquiry and start entertaining the idea that the exact thing that you're super afraid of about yourself is actually one of your superpowers. And then go in, explore it, heal it, love it, embrace it. That is how you transform all that negative frequency.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Absolutely. It's so powerful it's really like getting present to the things that have brought us down, and like even with whether you see them as demons, it's your shadow, the shadow. When you face that head on, and are willing to address, yes, I have fear here, or whatever it is, it's bringing me down, and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to figure out what's going on here, and then see like this is actually part of myself that needs something. That's where that transformation happens. And I love that you presenced that, because yeah, some scary stuff shows up like in the night, for me, it was like when I was a little kid, I was terrified. It took me years to learn how to work with what would show up in the night, and so for, also being empathic, the inundation of, I feel everything and I don't like what it feels like. As a child, I put up so many walls around my feeling body, and yet our emotions and our feeling, as empaths, that's a superpower. It's also for a higher dimension of reality. It's here in such a density, it's like destructive to feel that much. It feels painful, right, to feel so much. But yet when we realize and we switch that back on, take our power, be empowered in it, that's where our gifts really start to flow. Do you find that as well?
Oh, yes. I was just like kind of raising my hand every single time you were saying some nugget of wisdom, right? Because it's so true. And I've noticed that so strongly too, because I live here in New York City, where there's so much energy. Like, I mean, there's so much transmissions of light and dark, entering, New York, even just because we're so highly populated and so much kind of originates here on some levels. And so I see actually a lot of empaths in my private practice. Like, they are the ones who come to me and they are the ones who say, I'm exhausted. I'm also extremely angry. And I know it doesn't belong to me because I actually had a good day, but I don't know why I feel this way. And I'm really upset. And by that time, they've already put up walls of armor that are impenetrable. And then all of a sudden they're like, I don't know why I'm not feeling love as well. Right. And that's because when because I did this too, and it sounds like Waxela did this too, we put up these walls. So because we feel so much, and then we don't want to feel so much, and we also don't want to see all these things, that we just like, okay, I'm done. Let's just get rid of this, right? And so we put up those walls. But the problem is when you do them in such a way, you actually shut out everything, including love. And so that is one of the things that, I end up, teaching my patients about, and also my clients about, is just, because when empaths, we can be sponges. And when you're a sponge in the middle of New York City, when people are not always being responsible and conscious with their energy and what they're saying and doing, right, then we absorb that, and then we take that on, and then we don't realize why we feel exhausted all of a sudden, tired, depleted, angry, in a very outrageous kind of way. So yes, we as empaths, we feel that. And it's a power, a superpower to feel that much. And it will actually behoove you and assist you in whatever your mission is specifically, to feel that much. And first, you must learn how to embrace it and to accept it and hone it and cultivate it. So, I'm remembering this one story that you shared with me, Waxela, that you were at you were on a trip and you were overseas, and there were beings that were trying to communicate with you, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm just trying to sleep right now, and how you get to maneuver that, because you get to be a powerful empath who understands yourself, who understands your abilities, and who creates parameters around that so that you can do the human thing of recharging through sleep, because we are incarnated in human form. So we do need those things. We do need to eat, and we do need to eat healthy food, and we do get to ingest, appropriate things for ourselves, and so, like Waxela, I too do not watch mainstream news at all. My partner, who's my twin flame, who's also a starseed, he's that type. He's the researcher. That's always what he's been for millennia. So, he's also blue avian as well. And so for him, that's important. He needs to research, he needs to see the patterns going on. And so for him, good for you. You can do that, because me, I'm out, and so all the stuff I learn is actually from him. So yeah, we get to feel and allow that to be something that you see as a superpower, which you first learn by embracing it and then cultivating it. Cultivate your empath abilities so that you don't get overwhelmed, and have those healthy boundaries. And one of those is just simply having an egg of white light. I know that was one of the first things that saved my butt when I was being an empowered empath, was like, see yourself in an egg of white light, so that you can then receive those higher frequencies like love, joy, but then it keeps out all those things that don't vibrate at that frequency, like hate and rage and jealousy and whatever else, right? Mm-hmm. So, use your tools, cultivate your tools, embrace your light, embrace your abilities, and start to really hone them, because you will see that it's actually going to help you where you're going.
Yes, I love that you brought in the boundaries there. For me, that made all the difference. When, like, I do get visited by beings, and when I realized, okay, this is my incarnation, I get to choose. And, I think what you're referring to, I had 12 beings show up around my bed one night, and they were energetically poking me with it felt like needles. It wasn't really needles. It's just how they were trying to get my attention. They weren't trying to be mean, but I'm like, no, this doesn't work for me. Like, bring, I communicated with them after the fact. One, in meditation is fine, like, send one representative, don't show up 12 around my bed. That's going to scare me. I can't communicate then anyway, right? So, but we get to have boundaries. And I think especially for sensitive people, which so many of us are, to know that when we're in power and we create boundaries, then we get to choose how that communication happens. We get to put boundaries around it, whether it's, okay, not at night while I'm sleeping, or not, I will tune in then during meditation. That was my agreement. Doesn't mean nobody shows up at night anymore, but just I've not had 12 since then ever. And you get to create, and this is not just for spiritual stuff. This is for life stuff. Like, create healthy boundaries in all of your relationships with everyone. And don't you also find, Margarita, that the things that apply spiritually also apply in like 3D world as well?
100%, 100%. Like, I see so many star season light workers. They're just up there in the cosmos and stuff, and they just kind of linger there, and they're not grounded when they don't realize that all the stuff that they're honing, cultivating up here is actually applicable to the 3D earthly realm. And actually, you must ground and center and apply into the earthly realm. Otherwise, your mission doesn't happen, because a lot of starseeds, they're like, oh no, I'm up here, I'm all, one with, the galactic grays and all this other stuff. And it's like, awesome. How are you channeling that into planet Earth? How are you implementing that to be in service to humanity? Like, what are you doing with it? It's not enough just to be galactic and, awesome in the cosmos, because I love it up there, like, don't get me wrong. But what you also get to do is you get to anchor yourself into Gaia, because that's why we're star seeds, because we're also, yes, we have our, star system roots, and we came here to Gaia to connect with her, help her out, and also help the planet and all the beings on it, right? And I know that sounds really like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Well, you do that by embodying all of yourself. You have a very specific, unique, energetic frequency, code, and imprint. And you might even have a couple codes. I have a couple codes. Waxela's got a couple codes. And what your job is to do is to really get connected to that, get connected and anchored into Gaia. Like, I talk with her every day, just because that's my jam, so that's what I do. And I connect with her and I see what she needs. I'm like, okay, how can I be of service? What do you need next? How could I make that happen? And sometimes I just do that check-in for myself, like with my heart, because you are number one, right? You check in with yourself first, cultivate yourself and your power and your self-love first. And then really like embrace that and embrace the fact that you're connected. I mean, that's what true connection really is. It's not just only your galactic family. It's also your human body, what your human body gets to experience, because that's also part of the reason why we embodied in human form. We wanted to experience the pleasure, the emotions, the connection, the diversity. And I'm not talking about just race, I'm talking about species. Like, I mean, we're from different species. So like, I mean, so that's exciting, right? Like, so you get to embody that and also connect with Gaia and all of that. That's what we get to be connected with. And when you're operating with all of that, you're operating from a full deck. So no matter what, distractions, like me being in the middle of New York City with all the sirens and all the noises, right? Like, you get to use that to your advantage. You get to use that as a way to, okay, how do I hone in? How do I focus even now? Right? So yeah, like, I mean, you get to really amplify your light, get cosmic, and also get grounded and anchored.
Yes. I have a vision of the monks that meditate in the middle of the street or, the sidewalk, and just choose to not be distracted by all of that. That's focus. Yeah. So thank you for presencing that about the, really the presence, about getting in embodied, because that's where our power truly is. And then anchoring into the earth, which is what we can do as galactics, bringing those codes into the earth and then receiving them back, and it's a flow, and that creates a ripple effect for the ascension process.
Absolutely. Because I'll say, you may have experienced this as well. I've noticed, some star seeds, they actually have physical pain. And when I go deeper into what they're experiencing, it's because they're trying to check out. They're trying to check out, they're trying to go back to their planet or planets, and they're just like literally checking out in their body. It's like, wait a minute, what about me? And so that's why I see a lot of starseeds who are not yet empowered, having a lot of fatigue, a lot of chronic fatigue, chronic pain, really like just feeling burdened by their body. And part of your being in your power right now is embracing your human form, embracing your physical body that you chose to incarnate in. Like, I chose this form, right? Waxela chose that form. You chose that form, right? For a reason. Usually it's to clear, even that was to clear trauma from those lineages, right? And like, I know that to be true about myself and why I chose to embody this form, right? So, I mean, embrace your form, your physical body, the amazing things it does for you. It's like that, even though you're still trying to check out, like, you're still here, you may be in pain, but you're still here. And so if you want that to shift, then embrace your physical embodiment, embrace the fact that you chose to be here. And I will not be surprised if your physical pain starts to transcend and transmute into ease and flow, because that is super important, that you remember you chose to be here and that you embrace your body, taking care of your physical form, eating what your physical form requires, receiving what it requires, drinking lots of unfluoridated water and all that. It's like, take care of your physical form because you chose this vessel.
Yes, indeed. I love it. Everything you just shared is golden. So thank you so much, Margarita. We're coming to the end of our time. I want to make sure everybody knows you have a free gift, and it's a throat chakra opening, right?
Yeah, well, I thought about it and I said, you know what, I think I want to give them the Starseed power activation video instead. And so that is what I'm going to make sure that your people have. And so the Starseed power activation, it's a video. And the reason why is, it might be a little self-explanatory based on what we're talking about, but it's super, super important for you to really embrace your galactic heritage, your galactic lineage, your galactic mission, and your strength and your power as the starseed that you are here to be. And so I made this video so that you could really experience that in a really, really greater way.
Wonderful. That's a perfect gift for this group and the viewers. So many starseeds, walk-ins, empaths, new humans. I mean, if people are attracted to this, you're definitely in that realm. So thank you, Margarita, and thank you for your generosity, for showing up, for all of the amazing work you do and the amazing information you share. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, Waxela. I always love, talking with you, and especially on these types of topics, and being here to share with your community. And it's really an honor. So thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And for everyone watching and listening, thank you so much for showing up. Be sure to grab Margarita's free gift and have a beautiful day or evening wherever you are. Namaste.